Good morning, Rich. Good morning, Michael.
Hello, Martin. How are you?
Hey, Martin.
Yes, hi. Wow, so good to have you here. Interesting, interesting week it was. How was your week in the US? Actually, I would like to know, um, for a country that is at war, is there any difference in being not at war and or being at war, or how is life feeling?
No, I would say that it really is, it's really no different at this juncture. I mean, it's not, I don't see it as a war. I see it as a conflict, but,
Ah,
at this
okay.
juncture, right?
Yeah.
War to me, you know, is two like adversaries going at it, right? And, I
So
mean,
it's more a skirmish from your perception.
no, it's more than that. Um, I would
Hey,
say
Rich.
Venezuela. I would say
I,
Venezuela was more of a skirmish versus, Iran is, you know, a conflict at this juncture. I mean, if it expanded into, other countries, um, beyond what it is right now, then I would say, it's definitely war. But, um, and if we had boots on the ground and, that kind of thing,
Okay.
um,
Say, Rich, Michael here.
yeah.
I respectfully disagree. I think it's a good example of modern warfare. So the trials and tribulations in the Mideast have been many, many wars since the Six-Day War and going back 50 years. So I think what we're seeing is modern warfare, and it's semantics. How do you define a war? I mean, that historians could debate what is a war versus a conflict versus a misunderstanding. But I have to say this is a good example of modern warfare, and we are so dominant in the Mideast. So after 50 years, we're finally exerting our economic, our diplomacy, our pro-Israeli stance, our anti-nuclear stance. I think there's an awful lot going on here, Rich. So I would say it's a modern war, and it's fought with technology, not with boots on the ground. And I think with drones and the things that we're seeing that are new. And Martin, to your point, I think the economy, the news in the U.S., the comedians on late night TV, it is a big deal for the last whatever number of weeks it is. It's a major deal, and I think the story is yet to unfold as to how this ends up in terms of oil in the Mideast, the role of Israel and its wars. So, Rich, in all due respect, I think it's a first time example of a very modern war on the borderline of nuclear holocaust. It really could be in the Mideast if Iran has, you know, hidden enrichment and so forth. This could go on for 50 more years. But I think Orange Man wants basically a perpetual agreement that we all know is not possible. So I think there's an awful lot of impact, Martin, to your point, and I think the story could go on 10 or 20 more years before it's finally said and done.
Yeah, I just wanted to explore because we are quite a funny group because most of us are Westerners, yeah, if not all, and spread out over the world. And uh, I always like it very much if I can get the baseline from somewhere. Because if you ask Asians, they would see it in a very different way. They would say, why are the Americans still there when this is our territory? And others saying, oh, we should have business, uh, everyone with each other, so that's bad for our business, so it's not a good idea. And then there is this religious level, which is for some difficult to understand, but for others, it explains what is happening, and the whole thing has gone to a stage where it's no longer predictable what is going to happen, because it's all like a chaotic system where people and their allies would act in an instantaneous moment as what they feel, but what would be good for everything is interesting. Yeah, for mechanical
Martin,
yes.
Martin, I tried to answer your question, you know, how does it feel, right? What what Michael said, I mean, a lot of things that he said, I would agree with. But I don't think that was your question. So I think this is a little bit of, Michael's sort of threw, the baby with the bathwater. I only tried to throw out the bathwater, right? But in essence, this is I mean, it is a big deal. I'm not downplaying that at all, or trying to minimize that. It is a big deal. People are getting killed, and unfortunately, and nobody wants that on either side. I think the issue here for us as citizens, is that, it's raised prices. We've seen, price inflation, coming back, not only from, the price of gasoline, but groceries, transportation charges, creeping into everything. So it's changed, the economic picture in Standard here. But there's lots of dimensions to this, conflict or war, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. But I think some of those dimensions, not only are economically, producing economic issues, but political issues, but within the greater sentiment of the citizenry of the U.S., I would say that the vast majority of the people here don't think we should be there, right? Don't think we should be in this conflict. Rightly or wrong, we're there, right? I mean, we stepped into it, and now we got to get the either a result or get out, one of the two.
Yes.
And
Yes, sure. I don't. I just wanted to capture some thoughts. Actually,
yeah,
uh, where do I start? For today, I have prepared something. I have a testimonial of someone. He's called Matthias Schmidt, and he's in a group called Euro Founder, European Tech Founder, and founders. And he collected a group and did a survey, and then he presented one of the worst examples that are there. And I, the reason why I bring this up is this. You know that I'm running my Credentilix project, and it's slowly going forward in small percentage steps. So each week we get 1% more of what we need. And I can see already that in 1 month down the road, this is going to be a hot cake, because there's our first mandate, which is the Cargo Cobra, the robotic solution for airport handling, will be presented as one of the flagship projects of Singapore in the upcoming robotic fair in Singapore, which starts on the 14th of May. And and people are asking me, so why do you exclude the US? And the reason why we exclude US is Michael. Because Michael brought up the important freedom to operate questions. Are you allowed to operate in the US, and what is the impact if you do so? And we followed up, and we found out that for someone outside of the US, you would attract a lot of problems if you provide financial I wouldn't even say services, financial impact on US soil. And so this is why we stayed out. And then I found this Matthias Schmidt, who provided an average CV of 25 years, and I would like to read that one to you. So, European tech founder success story, 2001, graduate from Karlsruhe University. Tech founder means he was in the STEM, engineering, technology, science, and whatever, right? 2001, which is 25 years ago. At 26, 1 year later, the year after, unpaid internship at Deutsche Telekom. It is the state, it was a dot-com bubble. Then 27, first job is junior IT coordinator after the internship at Deutsche Telekom. And now you guess how much is a junior IT coordinator making? They're making $1,200 a month. He did this for 4 years. And when I say he, this is not a specific person, but an average of the members there. So he quit to start a business. And that was age 31 already because he graduated 6 years earlier and then at age 25. So at 31, he quit to start a business. And at age 32, he attended 5 EU startup workshops in Brussels, which is the capital of the EU administration, I must say. Uh, um, 1 year later, which is 2 years after he quit to start a business, he set up a company and he applied for all the permits and licenses to run that company. 1 year later, he applied for funding from EU Innovation Fund. That was what triggered my attention. And 1 year later, he received a euro $25,000 grant. 1 year later, he was caught because there's a data privacy and whatever regulation act in place, and they were caught in infringing that because of their marketing, and they received a 15,000 euros fine for that. At 37, which is 4 years after he opened his company, he closed the company, and despite having zero revenues, he owed 8,000 euros in taxes, which I find quite weird. Then 38 starts an online certificate, which is the year after the bankruptcy, starts an online certificate in AI regulatory ethics, and it doesn't work out. And 2 years later, it gets a 1,800 euros per month government job, and that one is secure for the rest of his life, can never be fired. And that what he was doing for the past 10 years. And at age 50 now is where the joke comes in. He updated his LinkedIn profile to ex-founder, sustainability leader, and AI leader and systems thinker. And this is 2026 and is a typical entrepreneur career in Europe. And I have seen hundreds of those. And the tagline underneath it, Americans would never understand this journey. And now we have yeah, what I can tell you from my European background, this is a true story. It's not, you can even tag it to some persons, but if you take 500 I would say that a good half of them would follow that pattern. And yeah, so here's the ball in the American field. Americans would never understand this journey. And I guess it's because in the US they throw money at you if you have a business idea.
It's not true at all. There's plenty of people like him in the US. plenty.
Okay. But would they end up with a government job or what? Or
Well, if you want to get down to that level, I was talking about his entrepreneurial journey, but you know, going to work for government, I would say no. I would say the vast majority of them, you know, probably join, you know, another startup, but not of their own.
okay.
And do something like that, or you know, continue to try to work on their idea and you know, with a lot less revenue and you know any kind of earnings really. Um, but they you know sort of scratch out a living doing something, and
Okay.
then you know just continue to fund their idea, trying to get it going. Um, you know, there it's difficult to make generalizations, right? Because
Yeah, of course.
there's always an exception.
Yeah, of course.
Say,
So
Rich, I can comment about aerospace. So in aerospace, people go in and out of think tanks, industry, the government, and the military all the time. All right. So some of my clients at GE Aerospace were retired or semi-retired, or they're 30-year-olds, and they were with the Air Force, or they were with the Marines, or they worked both in companies like Parker Hannifin before they got into aerospace. So it's very fluid. And I think, you know, I think Roland could comment, pharmaceutical may be similar. There are people in and out of the FDA that are lobbyists, and then they go to work for Pfizer and they're accused of working on COVID and Wuhan. I mean, it's a very dynamic environment in certain industries. I think nuclear power, Navy nukes, you know, the nuclear activity for weapons and nuclear submarines and nuclear power plants all over the world. It's a very fluid sort of environment. People go in and out all the time, from think tanks to government to industry to end users. It's there are millions of examples. And it looks like Matthias here is a candidate to jump into that. And I don't know what stage of his career, but he's pivoted many times from what I'm looking at on his LinkedIn. And you're a founder, Martin. How does that tie to his work with Credentialix, do you think? Are you going to hire this guy or
No,
what?
wait, the big picture is this. Because of you bringing up the very, I must emphasize this 100,000 times, very valuable remark. How do you cope with the US? Right? You remember something like that. And then Joe Slaughter came in and he said, are you providing equity tokens? And then I was I was really tantalized because wow, I've never thought about that. So I believe if you start a new business idea, you should always ask your friends, "Hey, can you please shoot at me and see what happens?" And the outcome was that I just behave as every single Singapore bank would behave, and if you smell like an American, they would kick you out of the office right away. And then I investigated, why is this so? And the problem is that the formalities that come with an American in an investor's deck outside of the US are so high that the investment doesn't make sense anymore. So I realized if we run Credentilix, we need to set up a Credentilix US. And it is my hypothesis that Credentilix US is obsolete because in the US, that was, I mean, Rich, you destroyed it today, but it was my perception that in the US it's very easy to get money for such a venture. And
no, no, I wouldn't say easy. There is money out there. I mean, there's a lot of money out there actually.
hmm,
But you know, finding finding the right potential investors is, you know, the first trick, right? the second trick is, having a, having some traction to be able to prove the idea, in the marketplace. And then having a defensible business model, right, on top of that traction. And then, next would be the IP piece, right? And the next after that is the team, right?
Yeah.
And any of those can be switched around in any order you want. I just, did it from top of mind, but some people would say the team is first, and
Yeah, whatever.
yeah, exactly.
Rich, the issue is not what priority you give it, but what my experience is for 30 plus years, that most founders only focus on one of those, and that is lethal.
It is.
Yeah.
Actually, they focus on product, right? We didn't even mention that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's where we
Um,
start. That's where we started 8 years ago or so. Yeah, because yeah. So that's
and
where I come from. I mean, and then even you, Rich, you are sending me, and I'm very grateful for that. You're sending me what are our competitors in the US doing, or could we cooperate with them? And 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 then we even in our internal ticketing system, we now opened a whole directory for US opportunities or leads or threads or yeah, and it was because of you, because I told them, hey, look, US is certainly on our map, but for the time being, if we cannot even clean up our own backyard, why would we go to such a big exposure? And
yeah, you're not ready for the U.S.
yes, and we have just one single project, and it must prove its value here, and then uh, and the US is a very different game, because one of my friends told me, if you know someone at the bank, then he can open that it seems to me that you can park your money in a certain account, and then the bank would give it to local businesses who use it for expansion. And you, of course, you pay more interest than for others because of the risk that it comes. But if you do well over years, then the bank manager becomes your best buddy, and then they would almost give you money without asking questions.
The
And
only people that get money without being asked questions are people that have had 2 or 3 successful exits, right?
yeah,
I'm also under the guise the bank will always give you more money than you can afford. Meaning that they will give you more money at an interest rate that when you pay it back on some schedule that you need to have the customer clientele, or you won't be able to afford it.
I see it the other way around. If you take money from a bank as a loan, which I like, because once you understood how the banks are making money, it's over the interest rate and plus the stability. Then if you have a business model that produces more revenue than what the interest is, then you have a very safe way to make money. And
Yes, as long as you preclude the business model is operating and can pay back the interest.
yeah, but that brings me to the most important part of the innovation, which is market response testing. And if you, I just give an example. Another friend of mine, he's organizing, he's is the largest online course provider for marketing in Germany, and he has something like 150 million euros per year revenue business, or could also be 250, something like that, in a 2-digit millions per month revenue with online courses and academies and so on. And he says that you should bring, with every dollar spent for marketing, you should bring back $3 in revenue. And that would result ideally in 50% of that revenue being profit. That's the best business. So if you apply, wait, the 50%, please don't take it literally. The profit before whatever, the immediate costs, but not the other costs. What, what I want to say is if you have a business that can increase revenue by putting money into marketing, then that is the best opportunity to take a bank loan. And then the interest rate doesn't count. If you take a bank loan for financing innovation, where you have a very high degree of uncertainty, I don't think that this is a good idea. But once you have a product that is ready and it produces revenues, and you can also say that, okay, 80% of the qualified leads that I am attracting would lead to a closed business, and that closed business is a profit. If you have that situation, then you are in a position to increase the traffic, and that would cost money. But then you would have a multiplier on the money invested for marketing. And I believe that taking a loan for marketing and sales is a good thing, while taking a loan for R&D is a very bad thing. And
Yeah, it's kind of like I'm going to use the word arbitrage. You should not try and arbitrage with a loan for R&D because the product isn't tested.
boy, that is a very wise statement, Joe. The wisest that I've heard of you in 5 years. And I fully agree.
I've said a lot of dumb things then along the way.
I mean, come on, you're a young guy. But that's a very wise thing, and is also an insight that I only got a few days ago, because one of our banks called me and they say, "Hello, sir, do you want to take a loan?" And I said, "I'm usually against loans." Okay, so but now we have a, a, a range of products that we can multiply, and I know that it will produce revenue, and the revenue would be profitable. So why not taking a loan and then put that loan on marketing, when you know that you get more back than what you invest, because every conversion is accumulating your profit. And
Yeah,
I've heard
what you're
a lot of
what
the
you're
companies go to the loans for payroll. When the company starts, it's more like payroll between. So it's keeping it afloat because there are future orders. So it's almost like then it does become arbitrage because I have a future order for 3 months, but I need the payroll for 3 months to do it.
yeah, but at
So it
least
feels like it'll be inevitable.
but you have a wait, that is applied to the Credentilix model. You have a product idea, and you have people that believe in that product because it would solve their bleeding neck. And they say, okay, there's no solution out there, but at least I have someone who promised me to solve it in 6 months down the road or 1 year down the road, and I can be on the team, and maybe even the development when I'm an alpha customer would help me to get at least a view on how my bleeding neck would look like in 6 months down the road, and hopefully it's better. And that's a Credentilix model. While when I go out and try to explain that model, then people always ask me questions from an equity point of view. They say, "Okay, I give you $100,000, and how much equity can I have in your venture?" And then I tell them, "Hey, this is the wrong perspective, because we don't deal with equity anymore. We help you to solve your bleeding neck. Or if you don't have a bleeding neck, but you know someone who has that, then you can also use that one to speculate on that bleeding neck being healed." And that's the idea of Credentilix. And my impression was that the US doesn't need that.
Say, Martin, I'd like to remind you something in the BCG matrix. If you have a star on your hands with a Cargo Cobra or any star business that's going to be high growth, high share, protected by intellectual property, BCG would tell you it's negative cash flow. So it's called invest to grow. So when you and Joe are saying you're never going to take a loan to do R&D or make your payroll, I have to disagree. If you've got a star, it's going to suck cash, and businesses don't go broke for lack of profit. They go broke for lack of cash flow. So there's a paradox for you guys. If you got a star business, you could be sucking cash for 5 years before you finally turn positive cash flow, and you tell your investors you may not make a profit for 5 years. You may give away the monitor if you're Steve Jobs to hope to sell an Apple computer someday. The strategy has to be short, medium term, and long term. And if you've got a real star and a new S curve on your hands, get ready. You're going to have trouble making R&D payroll. You're going to have trouble paying vendors for prototypes, and you have to go to your investors and get that money. That's what IPOs are for. That's what floating new stock issue is for. If you're an innovation guy at Parker Hannifin, Rich, you know the story. Big companies know how to find money. It's not a problem. They just have to tell their shareholders it's going to be negative cash flow because we're on a new S curve.
That adds another dimension to the model.
In our dimensions that I keep hearing, it's like you have debt, and then it's almost like debt vultures want to come in and finance your debt, so that way they could possibly get a chance of a hostile takeover. That's kind of
Joe,
how I hear it.
a lot of innovators will take a second mortgage on their house if they've got a new mousetrap. When you did your mosquito trap, Martin, how did you fund it? Did you take a mortgage on your house in Germany or what?
No, I used the ABCD strategy and plus the 4x4, and I killed it after the proof of concept.
But how did you get money to do your prototype for your mosquito trap? Was it out of pocket? You opened your wallet or what?
I used sweat money, which means I built it myself.
Okay, so for Cargo Cobra, if you need whatever, $10 million to take it through your phase 2, right now in phase 2, are you taking it through Credentialix, or did you find other traditional sources of money in Singapore?
Now that leads to the core of the thing. In Singapore, there is a public funding way where you can build a proof of concept or proof of value, which is a prototype. But they don't even tie it to a technology readiness level. No, whatever. It's a bit vague, but probably it's meant to be so that the government can be more efficient. And they have secured $400,000 for the development of the next stage. But of the 400,000, 80,000 are paid upfront, and 320,000 are paid upon reaching the milestone. And the milestones is similar to in a stage gate process to comply with whatever is required, and is quite variable. So they have they have secured that. And now they are confronted with, where do we get the 320,000 from?
Well, Martin, I'm on the website, and at the last, I just clicked on phase 2 financing details for Cargo Cobra. And it
Yes.
says site cannot be opened. And I tried it in 3 different browsers. So tell your IT people that don't have a link. It says looking to invest in Cargo Cobra, phase 2 financing details. And I clicked it in 3 different browsers. It does not open.
That should not be. But we are not even public. The only reason why you know it is because I published the URL here in our group, and the Cargo Cobra is our flagship project. And
Martin, I'm sure I'm not the only one in your insiders and 4x4. This is out there. By the way, you've got a competitor, and I don't even know what language, if you look at cobracargo.com, someone else reversed your words and they took out a website. And
Okay.
yeah,
Wow,
so
so cool. Thank you,
yeah,
Michael. I
well,
will
yeah, I
forward it.
mean, you gotta keep an eye once you launch anything such as Cargo Cobra AI, you call it. I don't know why you're calling it AI. Why didn't you call it whatever the Singapore nation website is, or DE for Germany, but or .com, .net. But why are you cargocobra.ai?
I'm number one, I'm not the company, but I'm the organizer of the platform. Number two, I'm very grateful that you saw it, and I will forward all these points tomorrow to the client. Number three, this is a proof of concept, if not prototype or whatever. We are in a very early stage and such bugs are expected. It should not be there once you have thousands of those things out there. But I'm very forgiving about that because I'm trying out something built on trust among my personal environment. And what I can see is that investors in early stages, they're very forgiving if they only recognize that the idea is put to practice by honest people. And what I can guarantee you is that the people that are on that project, they are not out for a fast gain. It's something where they put their reputation on the line. And so do I. So it's not a bug, it's a feature, Michael. But thank you for telling me. I will address this tomorrow. And
Well,
I,
one other thing, Martin, in automated baggage handling, I think you got a sweet spot in terms of cargo inside the aircraft and robots and vision. But automated baggage handling, I think Atlanta Airport, there are billions of dollars spent on baggage carried by people and checked and hard automation as well as soft automation. And then material handling is the bigger picture. So Amazon warehouse and automated guided vehicles, so you found a sweet spot. Whoever came up with the patent application, I mean, it's certainly an area of the market that people in terms of terminal baggage handling and conveyor systems that have been around for probably 70 years in airports. So what I saw last week when I looked more closely at your technology, be careful because material handling is the big picture, and cargo is a different segment than people checking their suitcase or carrying on their bag. But it's really interesting. And were you the guy who prosecuted the patent, or does the group have another patent firm? I'd like to see the patents.
the patents, oh, interesting. So we should put them in a data room. And when you buy the first token, you have access to it. And one
Okay, are
token.
the applications laid open? Are they in the public domain in the PCT yet, or US
Yes,
or
yes,
anything?
yes, yes. Of course, yes.
And Martin,
Okay,
I was
so
reviewing the data room stuff and getting back to your team with that because
Yeah.
I'm now under the guise that in any company, when foreign companies how do I put it? The powers of foreign countries are against startups. It means that you can't secure the data 100% because if any person is part of it, they could be socially manipulated to giving credentials to get into the data flow.
Yeah.
And so I'm almost getting to the point where I might have to put a rider inside of like the agreement saying, hey, anything that's published using any internet computer that's connected to a network means that you don't have secrecy of your data.
Yeah. Joe, what I can tell you is that both the Cargo Cobra and the Credentilix, they are both innovations in itself. And we, as we go forward, we run into problems that can be solved in a convincing way. But of course, we need some time to address them, and we will do so. And currently the Cargo Cobra is a very low risk, what I can tell you is a very low risk project because the Singapore government is behind that. And I believe that you will get back a factor of 10 for the money that you put in, but with a high risk, because it could be that for some reason in the end, on phase 3 or whatever, stage 3, then there is something that comes out and this will never materialize because we find out that something doesn't work.
Well, Martin, here I'm
Yes.
on the website again. You say the market is 18 billion US dollars annual market, 100,000 flights, 365 days a year, $500 average. I don't know if $500 is the handling to load the cargo hold, but then you say automation works inside the hold without human help. So there's the sweet spot of the market. But again, your freedom to operate, Martin, these 100,000 flights are regulated by the Civil Aeronautics Board. And just like batteries on board or oxygen tanks, your experts must be aware of the regulatory environment. Anytime you put a piece of equipment or anything that depends on automation to get it
Yes.
right, there's weight and balance, there's screening that goes on. The reason the people are involved is there are many reasons that you're not going to just let automated robots or automation and vision systems take the place of the people. If that ever happens, I mean, you're saying it. You just mentioned it. It's small, but yet on your website you're saying it's an $18 billion opportunity. I mean,
Wait,
that's huge.
maybe that's another change that we need to do, because the publications that are there on the website are not the Credentilix publications, but they are the publications of the company that is offering the pre-sales. So it's a bit
Well, if
like
someone signs up for a pre-sale, what are they ordering? What does the gadget look like, Martin? Is it a robot with software, or what do they get in the black box if they sign up for it?
okay, in the case of the Cargo Cobra,
Yeah.
what you get is you buy a voucher of a certain amount of money, let's say 1,000, and that gives you a discount of 90% of the same amount if you buy the Cargo Cobra robot. Which means once the Cargo Cobra robot is ready, then you can go to the company and they would sell you a Cargo Cobra robot for 100,000, and you say, I pay 90,000 cash, plus I put a 1,000 voucher on the table, which is valued at 10,000. So you get a 90% discount on the value of the product based on the voucher value that you bought.
Wow. Interesting.
And then that voucher can be sold. So if you run an airport and you want to buy one of those Cargo Cobra products, then you advertise in the group, hey people, I'm trying to buy a Cargo Cobra robot. Can you please sell your discount vouchers to me? I buy at any reasonable price. And then suddenly you can sell your voucher. You put in 1,000, and the 1,000 gives you a 90% discount on the purchase price. And then you sell it for, let's say, 5,000. And within 1 year, you have multiplied your investment by 5. And the purchaser is happy because he gets, for that amount of money, a 50% discount on the purchase price. That's the idea behind that. Or if you are interested yourself, and you know that one of those robots costs 1 million, then you convince your CEO to invest, let's say, 50,000, and the 50,000 will give you a 50% discount on the purchase price of the entire robot, which is 500,000. 50,000 times 10 is 500,000. So if instead of 1 million, you pay 500,000 plus the the vouchers that you bought for 50,000.
I would think the customer for this thing, Martin, are going to be the airlines. I mean, if some entrepreneur wants buy your options through Credentialix and let's say buys 10 tokens, he then has to turn around and offer that to whatever airline who's going to be the end use customer of this thing, right? It's gonna end up in the airplane, you know, on the ground, and it's going
Yes.
to be purchased, I
Yeah.
assume, by the major airlines
But
around the world.
the problem being you don't have equity in the company, but you're getting a very powerful position as an alpha customer. Plus, you get a good discount. Plus, you have the risk. So if for some
But the
reason,
Martin, if I may, the big airlines are going to buy these things 500 or 1,000 at a time to put in airports all over the world. If you go to Lufthansa, they're not just going to buy one at a time. They're going to, if they like it, they're going to buy 500 of them.
yeah, and the big advantage is that they get access to the inner data room, and the inner data room would show them the financial and operational data of the company that develops that thing. If you
Yeah, I
ask
mean, when I
me,
say 500, you may need one at each gate at each airport that Lufthansa serves. It could be 5,000 that Lufthansa wants to buy.
yeah, but no, change to the perspective. The idea of the Credentialix was to put the investors into a position where they can see what is done with their money. And not only how to say,
I have another tangential one that will be great for this, and it's what is it? It's the minerals coming from conflict zones, as an example. Because it's kind of a tracing and making sure where the money goes and how it was done. And I know that like I know someone that's trying to work on a crypto program to do the exact same thing for mining and minerals. So it's another tangential follow the money and whether or not it's used for the purpose that it's supposed to be by rationalizing that it wasn't used for conflict minerals.
Joe, this is a long shot.
Joe, I'd like to point out that your idea could appeal to individual investors. And again, Martin, if I want to go back, there's blanket contracts. So back to your Cargo Cobra, I don't think they're going to be sold one at a time or 10 at a time. So through Credentialix, a small investor, by small, I mean someone that has 5 or 10 million. But again, if this thing really takes off, I think it's going to be as standardized as the ground support equipment. It's ultimately going to be sold on blanket contracts. And I think once it meets all the regulatory approvals, American Airlines is not going to buy them one at a time. They're going to buy thousands at a time, and so is Lufthansa and any other airline.
Yeah, because you can reduce your workforce for that area by half.
Oh, it's a new S curve, Martin. It's entirely new. It's just like automated handling equipment at the airports that got its start with conveyor belts 100 years ago. Nobody likes to carry baggage, and no one likes to hand load a cargo hold with containers of all different shapes and sizes, and refrigerated and pharmaceutical and all the regulatory and paperwork. There are thousands of people involved at every airline that do nothing but process the cargo that goes in the belly of the plane or on cargo aircraft at FedEx. I mean, it's a very different set of operating issues versus a consumer that checks their bag on, at a terminal.
But you may have realized that we are talking at two different levels. I'm talking about how to bring people on board that are willing to comply with the regulations of Credentialix, while you are talking about one single Credentialix mandate.
That's the one that you're using as your launch point for Credentialix. You keep mentioning Cargo Cobra, so that's why I started looking at the website 3 weeks ago.
You need to keep the two different because I'm not developing Cargo Cobra. Cargo Cobra, I like. I'm also investing there. And I will not put money in for equity. I want to see the performance, which means I will certainly buy vouchers, discount vouchers for the final product because I know already that there will be buyers for that. Because if you can save $1,000, you would, right? If you just present a voucher. And if I sell you the voucher for saving $1,000 for $400 or $500, would you buy it? Rhetorical question. Yes, you would buy. So I will certainly buy vouchers for buying the Cargo Cobra product at a discount. But that's one thing. The more important thing is not that I make $400 profit or 4,000 or 40 is not the important thing. The important thing is that I'm creating a platform where other people who are willing to obey to the same rules can also fund the innovation, which is usually high risk. And the main application is currently in Singapore, if you qualify for public funding, they will not give you 100% of the funding, but they will give you 20% upfront with no question asked, and the other 80% when you reach the milestones. And now you need to find people who are willing to bridge that financial gap. And that can only be done by a loan or by, I don't know, your own capital or by whatever. And now I found a hybrid way to organize that. If you find people who are willing to buy into the discount voucher, and discount voucher is only one of the many models that can be designed around this idea, but it's not equity. And since I do this, every week or so I have 3 or 4 or 5 people who are interested in and I didn't advertise the whole idea. And when I talk with people and then I say, okay, this is Credentilix and you can do this and that and this and this, and then they say, yeah, but I don't want to give away equity of my company. I believe in it and I can afford funding it. And I say, yeah, sure, but why don't you catch several birds with one stone by signing up? You comply with what is required. And you will, at the same time, both get pre-sales that finance your R&D, and you would get a signal that tells you whether or not your product is wanted in the market. And I believe that the latter is the much more important aspect of it. It's not about getting the money. It's about getting a signal. Are you doing something that is useful? And that also creates the distinction between the two startup types. The first one is optimizing their sales to attract investors. And the other one is optimizing their sales to attract paying clients. And now guess what I think is the better one? The latter one, of course. You want, as a startup that can survive, you want paying clients, people that pay your bills. And you don't want investors' money, because investors' money is convenient, yes. No questions asked most of the time, yes. But at one point in time, these people want to see interest, plus they want their money back. And that's the time. Just today, you know what? I live here in Southeast Asia. And people all over the world, they think Southeast Asia is a big jungle, mostly populated by apes. And the people that live there are closer to the apes than to the human mankind in the Western culture. That's the typical preconceived idea that I hear when I'm outside of Southeast Asia. The truth is, there was, because it's bankrupt, a startup in Indonesia which is called e-fishing, and then they did some sort of please forgive me if I'm wrong, but it had to do with fish and with growth and with producing revenue from converting living fish in the water into food on your table. And they set up a startup and collected investors' money, among others from Singapore, which is one of the root causes of the problem that they're facing now. And at one point in time, they exaggerated their sales figures. And the investors kept in pouring money. And as you can imagine, at one point in time, the thing didn't work anymore. You can drive this for a year or 2 or 3, but at one point in time, this game is over. So it was. And now they are the founders of the e-fishing in Indonesia. It's all over the place in Southeast Asia. They are now facing a 10 years jail time for I'm not even sure for what, but the investors, among others, the in Singapore investment arm who invested in them, they said this is a fraud because you have reported the wrong sales figures to us, and based on that, we kept in pouring money into your company. And if you had only told us the true sales figures, we would have stopped that and not had poured so much money into you. So the damage is because of your false statement about the sales figures. And the data room, now Joel, please listen, was clearly set up in a way that they had no excuse. And this is, I believe, how it should be. It's not wrong. This is how it should be. And if you do the same thing with a Credentialix approach, that means that your sales figures are represented and counted on a public stock exchange, online, for example. And you do this even before the product is there. And if you continue to do so, there's no reason for any fraudulent measure, because you have all the data there and you're used to it, to use it, and it's even verifiable. It can be verified in a public way. So that's the idea behind the Credentialix. It's not about getting money from investors. It's about getting money from people who believe in the pre-sales, in the product. That's the idea of the Credentialix. Sorry for this ranting or whatever monologue.
So Martin, I want you to be aware of something. Maybe you already are, but if you're not, this could make you a very rich man. Jeff Bezos, right, is basically raising $100 billion to fund his aim at acquiring and transforming manufacturing companies. And, basically he would be a prime candidate for this technology.
The Credentialix technology.
No, the Cobra.
Cargo Cobra, okay.
Yeah, Cargo Cobra, whatever it is. Because it aligns perfectly with Amazon warehousing. It aligns perfectly with, his new investment scheme to go after these manufacturing companies and transform them. And there's got to be some type of AI that's associated with this Cargo Cobra, solution. And it's use potentially across manufacturing, could be monumental as well.
Yeah.
Say, Rich,
Yeah.
years ago, places like Westinghouse Productivity Center, so cellular manufacturing, robots, and automated guided vehicles to do a lights out factory. That whole concept of factory automation. So when you say Jeff Bezos is putting 100 million into transforming manufacturing, I think the hard automation versus soft automation and AI systems and robots, material handling. And again, if you look at transfer lines, and Martin probably knows this from his work in automotive, engine assembly and machining and cellular manufacturing and robots and the material handling, like you said, Amazon warehouses. But lights out factory takes what Bezos is up to. And I think machine vision and robot vision, tactile sensing and grippers on robots that can hold on to an egg, and two-handed robots and 9-axis robots. So all that's been evolving for 50 or 60 years. So if you've got any websites for Bezos's 100 billion, I'd be curious to see what he's up to, because a lot of it is the same continuum of evolution and manufacturing that's been going on for decades now.
Well, all you need to do is uh, I'm Michael. It's not whether it's been going on. I mean, what we're talking about here is a guy raising 100 billion, not 100 million, 100 billion with a B, to fund acquiring and transforming manufacturing companies, right? Using AI,
Yeah.
and basically it's called Project Prometheus,
Yeah.
PROMETHEUS, and he's doing that with a guy that it's former Google exec. Anyway, they're acquiring companies in strategic industrial sectors like chip making, aerospace, defense, automotive, and infusing them with AI technology. But the focus is on pre-factory floor applications of AI, such as design engineering, supply chain optimization, and everything that Michael just said, plus what I've been saying, since I mentioned this to you, is, basically, right in the wheelhouse of this fund that they're putting together. I mean, these guys are, they're making this happen, and this new fund is up and running. Now, if they made any investments, I don't know, but it's some.
Very valuable hint, actually. Um, but when I look at Jeff Bezos and how he designed his company, that's very different from the normal startup, because he had a very clear vision of what is going to happen. And for him, it was all about, I believe that Jeff Bezos is even the more advanced serial innovator than um,
Musk,
no, Apple, the Apple guy, I forgot.
Steve Jobs,
Steve Jobs, yes. I believe this guy has some extra insights that the others don't have, because he comes from the business development side and not from the R&D side, as Steve
Yeah,
Jobs.
he was a consultant when he
Yes.
started.
Now we are back to the Ansoff matrix, and business development has nothing to do within the level of the Ansoff matrix. Is about how to increase sales and whatever activity in a direction that is perpendicular to the dimensions there. And Steve Jobs, no, Jeff Bezos is a master of business development, I believe, and he's not so much into product and market development. I believe if you take the Elon Musk and the Jeff Bezos and the Steve Jobs, I believe the smartest of those three is the Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, I don't know.
I
But
believe so.
yeah, but all I'm telling you is that here's a potential
Yes.
investor for your client, and
Yeah. Yeah, I will tell them. The question is only how would they know? And the best is to have traction, right? Because if you have no traction, then what you
well,
got?
But you've got, Lufthansa, right? I think you said is very interested in and has bought some tokens, maybe. I'm not sure about that, but you tell me.
Yeah.
But Lufthansa and the state government of Singapore is interested. I mean, that's enough to, I think, generate some inquiries and get some discussion going.
Okay, Rich, I will forward this to client. We will have a discussion tomorrow anyway. I'm still getting into more people onboarded on the Credentilix. Tomorrow we will have an important discussion with the most important law firm in Singapore, and they are very well interconnected with the government. And I want them to take over the legal FTO side of the thing. I could do it myself, but I see this as a platform, and I cannot pee at every tree in that forest. And I'm very happy to include others in participating. I had the idea and the initiative to set it up, and I'm quite good in managing innovation and in IP and FTO as far as that, but I cannot possibly take care of everything else. And so I need partners and friends and people who are willing to look into that. And yeah, I'm so grateful you are also part of that. I see that we are 4 minutes over the budget, and I hope that you forgive me and come back next week. Thank you so much, everybody, and see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So long, Martin.